Welcome to the Permco training series. Today, David Earls walks us through the various types of dump pumps that Permco has to offer, as well as identifying the differences between each of the series of dump pumps.
Today we're going to talk about the only dump pump still manufactured, assembled, and tested here in the United States. All Permco dump pumps are 100% factory tested and are still built here in the factory Streetsboro, Ohio. First, I'd like to show you the small dump pump series, typically used for small hoist. This is our DMR 400 or DMD 400 type series dump pump. It would replace the Muncie S series dump pump, or likewise the commercial Parker G series dump pump. The next larger frame series here is our DMD 25 series. It's for the larger dump trucks, the semis, frameless dump trucks, and other dump trucks you might see in the construction industry and along the roadside. This size pump would replace the Muncie E series or the commercial Parker C101 type series pump. The final series pump here is our own Permco Gemini pump. It is our dual pressure pump. That is the pump that is used when two applications are required, such as a dump truck and a walking floor. Next, we want to talk about the different types of dump pumps within the series. Over here we have direct mount dump pumps. They can be built either clockwise or counterclockwise. Just like normal pumps, a clockwise pump would have the inlet on the left side and the outlet on the right side for clockwise, and the opposite. For counterclockwise, you would have the inlet on the right and the outlet on the left. Also within a series, we have what are called remote mount pumps. This is a direct mount with a shaft that couples right up to the PTO and the flange mounts to the PTO. On the remote mounts, they are typically mounted somewhere away from the PTO, and then a drive shaft comes and couples to the pump. In the remote mount pumps, they are built for both rotations at the same time. One shaft for clockwise, the other for counterclockwise, depending upon how the valve body is put on. The other major differences is the air shift or manual shift option. Here's an air shift so that you can hook up to your air on your truck and shift the pump into the raise or lower position. The manual shift pump, what you have is a linkage that is attached to the spool that allows you to shift it to the raise, lower, and with the manual shift you have to return it manually to the neutral position. Some of the standard options on the Permco dump pumps are normally a SAE B 4-inch pilot for the mount. Drive shafts available standard is a 13-tooth SAE-B. Some of the pumps have been ordered with 1-inch 15-tooth and 1 1/4 14-tooth spline. There are different gear widths available on the Permco dump pumps. You can measure the gear housing. Right here we see 3 1/4 inches. To determine the gear width, we subtract 3/4 of an inch, so the gears in this pump are 2 1/2. The main DMD 25 series, typically available in a 2 1/2 inch gear and a 2-inch gear. Also in the larger series is a remote mount. In the remote mount series, instead of a mounting flange, we have a mounting bracket. It would slide over the bolts and you would mount to the truck. 1-inch keyed shaft is available for either rotation based upon whether your drive shaft is turning clock or counter. Again, determines the shaft that you couple to. Gear width is the same as a direct mount. You measure the gear housing and subtract 3/4 of an inch. In the smaller dump pump series, you have 2 different mounts available. A direct mount with the B spline and an SAE 4-bolt, or a remote mount in this series has a mounting pad, 2 1/2-inch 13 bolts to bolt the pump to the mount with. Now we're going to talk about the features on each of the series. First, let's start off with the large dump pump series. This is what we call the valve body. This is where the spool is installed and all the other components such as the relief valve and load check. On the back, there should be 3 ports. The largest port is the inlet. In 3-line applications, the sleeve would be installed in this port. You then would have the cylinder port, and coming from the factory, normally plugged would be your return. Your return would only be used with a 3-line application is installed, and this should be plumbed to the bottom of the tank. The inlet or cylinder port on our pump is where our load check is typically installed. Here is the relief valve on the large dump pump. It is a cartridge that can be removed for checking. For shifting the spool on this pump, we have an air shift that shifts the pump into the raise lower position and automatically returns to the neutral or hold position. On a manual shift pump, this is the detent housing, which controls the positions of the spool. Each spool has 3 positions. In the raised position, the spool is pulled completely forward, and the spool eye should be tight up against the back of the valve body. In a neutral position, the spool should be here in the middle of the valve body, and the spool eye should move back and forth. In the lower position, the spool is pushed back into the pump, and the spool eye is tight up against the retainer. On the large dump pump, on the side of the gear housing, there's a rib. It has to be important. If you change rotation, this spool will come in contact with this rib. So when rotation is changed, the gear housing and the valve body both need to be rotated, or you will not be able to put the pump back together correctly. This is our smaller hoist pump, the DMD 400 or DMR 400. There are a couple differences between this smaller hoist pump and a larger dump pump. One, the relief valve is not a cartridge, but is right here and is built into the valve body. The 3 ports, again, are located in the back: inlet, return, and cylinder port. The spool's detent is built into the valve body instead of being to the exterior. The Gemini pump is similar to our large dump pump with a few differences. One, the suction is not in the back as a standard dump pump, but is in the side. That allows us to put an 1.5 NPT port instead of the normal 1.25. The inlet on the port then has a sleeve installed and is plugged. The other main difference is this relief valve here. We call the dual pressure relief valve. You have a port right here at the end that a 1/4-inch NPT air fitting is installed, and this is used to shift the relief valve from the low pressure to the high pressure. The standard settings are 2,500 psi and 3,200 psi. So in normal operation, the pump would have a relief set at 2,500 psi. If you engage air to this port, then the pump would operate with the relief valve set at 3,200 psi. On the side of the relief valve, there is a breather port here, which you should install to allow the air to vent. Other than that, everything else is just the same as the large dump pump.